really for people who met me at a conference where I spoke and so forth, they would check out my site as just a confirmation that this is the guy that we want to hire. This is the team that we want to hire to do our SEO. And I was working with pretty big brands and they got to do their due diligence. So it's got to look to the level of some of these really big agencies that they're used to getting pitched by, because people want to know, like, and trust you. And if you don't have the storytelling, you just have a bio there that's really flat. Your personal brand is the only asset you'll carry from cradle to grave. Sell your company and its brand goes with it, but your name, that stays with you forever. Greg Merrilees, my guest on today's show, is the founder of Studio1 Design, a conversion-focused web design agency I've collaborated with for over a decade on multiple client projects and my own digital properties. In our conversation, we deconstruct the complete evolution of my personal brand websites, going all the way back from the 90s through multiple redesigns of stephanspencer.com, my 2 podcast websites, and beyond. We examine when to create separate brand properties versus consolidating under one domain. We explore how to showcase authority without creating decision paralysis. We break down why your FAQ section, rather than answering industry basics, should instead eliminate sales objections. We discuss the strategic placement of social proof that shifts contextually across pages, client logos on your results page, media outlets on your press page, speaking venues on your speaking page. And we reveal how timeline-based storytelling on your About Me page builds the kind of authentic connection that AI simply can't replicate. This case study gives you the blueprint for building authority that survives algorithm updates, platform shifts, and the rise of AI agents making decisions about who to recommend. So without any further ado, on with the show. Thank you, Greg, for coming back on the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Stephan. Always awesome to be here. Yeah, these case studies are fun, and now this one's going to be more fun because it's all about you, and you're going to be probably not big note in yourself because you don't do that. But I just wanted to mention to everybody that's listening that Stephan is the OG of SEO. When you think back, Stephan, when you started, I'm surprised that SEO was even a thing. Like, when did you actually get started online?
1995. Well, actually, I got started with building my first websites in 1994. I didn't even have a company yet. I launched a bed and breakfast directory called Insight, INNSITE.com, and a writers and authors community called WritersNet, and also in 1994. So those were while I was a graduate student at university. I dropped out of my PhD program in 95 and started, it was called Internet Concepts back then, but Net Concepts, and got the domain netconcepts.com 95. And been doing SEO since then. I started with just web marketing, web development, and quickly learned that the engines back then, there were a number of them, like Lycos and AltaVista, Web Crawler, et cetera, Hotbot. There's a lot of them, probably 7 or 8 of them that were important enough to create separate. Back then they were called doorway pages, but landing pages essentially for each of those search engines. And then Google came along, and I think it was 97, and that changed the game. I was very excited that it was a search engine that was actually really high quality. The results were markedly better than all the other engines, so I really doubled down on Google and figuring out reverse engineering how it worked. It's a fun way of getting into the SEO game in the very, very early days, using tools like Web Position Gold to create these multiple doorway pages for all the different search engines, and trying to do stuff that was ridiculous, trying to manage all these different slight variants of the same page, and realizing, like, this is icky. This just doesn't feel right. There must be a better way. And then with Google, kind of putting all my chips, betting all my chips on that one search engine, and really focusing on reverse engineering it.
So did they have an algorithm back then? Did they call it that?
Yeah. So the main difference maker for Google was it was a weighted form of link authority. instead of just having each link be a vote, they were weighted. It's called citation analysis. So the more authoritative the site is that's linking, the more juice, the more equity or link popularity flows to the destination. So if you think about like CNN.com, lots of link equity, that is a high value link. Jim Bob's personal homepage, not so much. So if you're playing the game with the other search engines, they didn't get that. It was just a numbers game, and it was much easier to spam. So that was the difference maker, and that is still foundational to this day for Google. That it's link authority with a weighting factor, called PageRank, named after Larry Page, not web page, but Larry Page, co-founder.
Oh, there you go. Huh. I had no idea. So, and then you started your what do you call it? Internet Concepts website.
Yeah, I called it Internet Concepts, but it was netconcepts.com, 1995.
Let's bring that up.
Yeah. So this is actually a version from a couple years into it. We did have a designer on the team, and he designed it. So we had much smaller screen resolutions back in the day.
That's right.
So there's a lot of blank space, as you can see if you're looking at the video, the listener / viewer. But back in the day, that kind of filled the screen, and the sites there, those screenshots that are rotating through like an animated GIF, those were designed by us.
Awesome.
So we did work for some pretty big brands like Inks International Ink Company, which was INX. It's or at least I think a 9-figure business. It was back then. Printer Space was one of the sites that we built on my recommendation. They actually created a separate brand community, kind of like what I had for writers with WritersNet. That's the WritersNet site there.
Love it.
I designed a site for the department that I worked at and got a master's degree from the Institute for Molecular Virology. Let's see, Seton.com. We designed that site for Brady Corporation. Yeah, so
with these cutting edge,
the design, and then built some SEO into the sites. So we weren't just a development house; we were doing SEO baked in to the sites. We even had our own version of a e-commerce platform.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So back in the day, with these open source e-commerce platforms, like how WordPress is open source, we picked one that looked promising, and it did end up being a good pick, and then baked in a lot of custom SEO stuff into that, and that became a platform that we called Gravity Market, which we eventually sold to another web development outfit a decade later, back in 2008. Or maybe it was, not a decade, but 7-8 years later. The big acquisition was in 2010, where I sold my agency and the Gravity Stream platform, which was a way to proxy a site and bake in SEO in real time, regardless of what platform they were on. So it was like a middleware layer to inject a bunch of SEO goodness into the site that they wouldn't be able to do without hundreds of thousands of dollars in expense retooling, or maybe even millions, retooling a expensive, unwieldy platform like Blue Martini or IBM WebSphere. So
you really did cut your teeth before anybody even knew what the internet was. You're already doing all these incredible things, building websites, doing SEO, getting websites ranked, and it's pretty amazing. I won't talk about
and then I
the design
started very
skills.
early on in the speaking circuit when that wasn't really a thing.
That was my next question.
Yeah,
How did
my
you?
first talk was at let's see, how to market educational programs on the internet, an IQPC conference that was like $2,000 to attend. And I not only spoke at that, I gave a after conference workshop, post conference workshop, and I was the chairperson of that.
Wow. Okay.
So,
And
and I was
then,
terrible. I was a very unrehearsed and awkward speaker because I hadn't been trained in speaking. But it was just really fortunate that I got this opportunity to speak, and because I was top billing on that brochure that they sent out to a lot of people, the competitors, IIR and WBR and all these sorts of conference organizations saw that I was a speaker, and so I started getting calls from the competitors saying, "Hey, can you speak at our conferences?" So I just said yes to everything, even though I knew I was a terrible speaker. I'm like, I just need to get better. So the way to get better is to do it a lot.
that's
So
absolutely right.
I
You got to
spoke
start somewhere.
everywhere. I did like, I don't know, a dozen conferences a year, and just became like a road warrior speaking at events. So I've done hundreds and hundreds of speaking gigs.
Incredible. Yeah. Put in the reps, and yeah, it's like anything. You got to start somewhere, but put in the reps and you'll certainly turn pro at some point, or good enough. But
Yeah, yeah. And I did get speaker training, multiple speaker trainings from folks like Michael Port, Heroic Public Speaking.
oh, yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, just it's been an area of focus. I think it's important that you have your bits rehearsed, and you know how to grab an audience, build rapport and relatedness with them,
Yeah.
and that you don't sound awkward.
Mm.
You use pauses instead of ums and just filler words. If you have nothing to say nothing. Just use the power of the pause to get people to be more enwrapped in what you're saying. So it's okay to just have a second there where they're just hanging on the last word that you said. So you learn all this stuff through training and through repetition.
Yeah.
Best, of course, is if you have both
Mm.
training and repetition. So you're not repeating the same bad habits.
So you built your
Like,
reputation offline, but what about online? When did you get your personal brand website, your first one?
yeah, so that was 2004, and I was a real laggard in that regard. So if you're seeing the screen here, that is the first iteration of my brand, personal brand website. It was just a blog, WordPress blog, and then after I sold the company in 2010, I did and left the acquiring company about 8 months later. Then I invested in a redesign. But yeah, I would blog pretty regularly. That was the thing back then. 2004, I was an early blogger. It
Mm.
wasn't as popular, back then. So I kept that up, and now I don't blog so much, hardly ever, but I do the podcast and YouTube videos that are based on the interviews and so forth. So that is, the thing these days. Blogging is not so much, but
Yeah.
I I, uh, I really built my reputation on speaking, and then the really big evolution or jump happened in 2009 when I came out with the first edition of The Art of SEO with my co-authors. One of those co-authors being Rand Fishkin, founder of what was then called SEO Moz, which became Moz or Moz.com. One of the big names in the SEO industry, bigger than my name. And we did a book together. And that became the definitive book on SEO, a reference, a textbook, a literal textbook used at universities to teach SEO. And a lot of the second and third generation SEO folks learned their craft from the first edition of The Art of SEO back in 2009. Second edition came out in 2012, third in 2015, and then the latest edition is the fourth edition, and 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, two and a bit. So
How many pages?
that's the evolution of the book, which really became like my calling card. It's essentially like a big business card. If I go to a prospect and I hand them a copy of the book, they're like, "Wow, I will never read that." It's like almost 800 pages, but thank you. Can I just hire you instead? And of course, that's a obvious yes. And then the conversation unfolds, and then we end up working together.
I love it. It's got the thud factor when you drop it.
Yeah, right. Yes, my industry friend Amy Africa would joke that it's better than Ambien, my book.
I love it. Very cool. And so at that point, you came to us, I think, 2013 or 14, something like that.
Yeah, so I met you through a mutual friend. It was because I was in his mastermind. It's Taki Moore. Taki had this mastermind called Black Belt. It's for internet marketers and business owners and coaches and so forth. So I was in that, and it was a 5-figure per year investment. Well worth it. It was great. But the biggest takeaway, the biggest ROI I got out of that investment was your name.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So Taki had highly recommended Studio1 Design and you as the founder. And we just started, chatting and working together. And then I brought multiple clients to you. I started recommending you at my speaking events and so forth. I just to this day, I mean, I'm raving about you constantly because you are such a amazing, not just designer, but marketer and strategist and thought leader. You get it, and you apply the stuff to your own stuff, your client stuff, and it's such a breath of fresh air. I can't imagine working with any other design firm. So yeah, thank you for all the great work that you've done over the years. And it all started with our own website, because that was the first site I hired you to work on, was this personal brand site.
Thank you for all that. Yeah, but yeah, we have to do a good job. So you keep coming back, and you have for a while. So yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I can't. I've lost track of how many sites you've designed just for me.
Yeah, it's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we would do microsites for different seminars that I would try and sell, like Passions into Profits was, we did a site for that. We did, a bunch of different sites. I can't even recall all of them, but at least 7 or 8 different sites over the years. And StephanSpencer.com being one of the most important ones. We've done several redesigns of that, and my podcast websites, Marketing Speak, this show's website, marketingspeak.com, getyourselfoptimized.com, my other show, my agency site, netconcepts.com. These are all Studio1 designs. And thank you for all that.
Pleasure, yeah. And so I think you came to us 2014 or thereabouts. And I mean, this is, if you're looking at the screen, listener or viewer, have a look on YouTube so you can see what it used to look like. It's not terrible for back in the day, right? And it was a challenge from my point of view, because Stephan was an authority, even back then, with his 3 books that he had and all of his speaking gigs. And it's like, wow, okay. I just felt like his website didn't match his level of authority. And I guess that's probably when you decided, Stephan, that you need to level up your personal brand website because you were getting searched. Like if we go to Google now and search for your name, and it was probably looking a lot different back in the day, but you did always have some form of a knowledge panel because you have books and all those sort of things. So
Well, yeah, not just books, but a Wikipedia entry and so forth. So that basically is an automatic thing. If you have a Wikipedia article, then you almost certainly have a knowledge panel in the knowledge graph, in Google's knowledge graph. So yeah, that definitely was a part of it. But really, for people who met me at a conference where I spoke and so forth, they would check out my site as just a confirmation that this is the guy that we want to hire. This is the team that we want to hire to do our SEO. And I was working with pretty big brands, Chanel, Sony Store, Zappos, etc. And they got to do their due diligence. So it's got to look to the level of some of these really big agencies that they're used to getting pitched by, like iProspect. And of course, they're 9-figure business or some crazy thing. So it's like, yeah, how do I look larger than life? And I better hire Studio1 to help me with that.
Yeah, awesome. And so, yeah, just bringing up a couple of the, internal pages, how they used to look back then. That was your about page, and this was the speaking page back then. Not sure if that's rendered correctly.
Yeah, that's pretty awful. It's just a bunch of links to different speaking gigs. Yeah,
that's all right. Still authority though. You still shows the volume, so there's some good things in that.
Yeah, that's an insanely long page.
Yeah, isn't it?
Even
back
then, a decade ago or over a decade ago,
Yeah.
I had hundreds of speaking gigs.
Amazing. Yeah.
That wasn't even all of them.
Wow. That goes back to 2003. Yeah. Incredible. And so, yeah, point is we needed to make sure that your website represented the authority level. And yeah, when people come to your website, they, like they either would take you seriously or they wouldn't, based on how professional they think your website is. That's just one of the contributing factors to whether or not they trust you. So we just need to make sure we minimize them thinking that you're not the real deal and maximize them thinking, wow, this guy is incredible, we must hire him, So that's where we came in. Yeah. And so, yeah, if you're watching this, you can see what the pages used to look like, the about page. Not much copy, and we'll show you our signature style about page shortly for the redesign. But yeah, this type of page back then was very standard for an about page. It's really just your credentials and, what sort of, what led you to this point, but without any sort of story or, copy that's going to help people feel engaged with your brand and who you are. So, yeah.
Yeah, because people want to know, like, and trust you.
Yeah.
And if you don't have storytelling, you just have a bio there that's really flat.
Yeah, exactly. So then we're just showing a bit of an evolution here of Stephan's brand. So this is when we first redesigned your website. Do you remember what year this was, this version, when we first did this one?
No, I think maybe 2016.
Something like that, yeah. We probably went live with something that was a little bit different, but it's probably changed a little bit since then to this in 2016. So not bad, right? It's not bad for back then. And it did last a test of time. Like we only updated it again this year, essentially, right? And so, yeah, and you built a lot of like brand authority on this website. You put all of your social proof with people like Tony Robbins and Jay Abraham saying awesome things about you, and testimonials from clients and case studies. Not all the videos are loading because it's on the Wayback Machine, but and you put your podcasts in here. When did you start your 2 podcasts, Marketing Speak and Get Yourself Optimized?
2015, both of them.
Yeah, so it wasn't called Get Yourself Optimized back then, was it? What was it again?
No, so it was the Optimized Geek.
Mm-hmm.
So I operated under that brand for the first, I think, 4 years.
Why? Okay, so why did you change the name? thinking about
Right.
branding.
So one of
Yeah.
our mutual friends, James Schramko, was my coach, one of my
Mm-hmm.
coaches, and he said that that name kind of boxed me in. It
Ah,
wouldn't be it wouldn't be resonant for somebody who doesn't identify as a geek.
okay. That makes
And so they
sense.
probably wouldn't listen to it. Here's all this great knowledge about biohacking, personal development, mindset, and so forth. But if you're not a geek, you're probably not going to give it a try to see how good it is.
Mm-hmm.
So we rebranded it to get yourself optimized.
Understood. So yeah, all aspects of your branding you up leveled around this time. So changing the brand from the optimized geek to get yourself optimized. And I guess it's hard to find a domain that's available and a brand that you resonate with that's not too removed from the previous one. So that would have been a challenge.
Yeah, so it wasn't unfortunately available to get your getoptimized.com, which
Yeah,
would have been easier to roll off the tongue, but yeah, get
is
yourself
what it is.
optimized was what was available.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not. I'm open to spending money on buying an aftermarket domain. So if it was only a few
Mm,
$1,000s, I would have paid for that. But it just
wasn't,
wasn't
yeah.
available.
Fair enough. Yeah, cool. And so yeah, it wasn't a bad website. And like I said, it lasted the test of time. Like we made some tweaks to it over time, updated your books and various. Obviously, you put all your content on here as well, and all of your press. You get mentioned in a lot of different press. I won't open this because it's on the way back and it'll take too long. But we'll show people the listener the new press page shortly. But yeah, that's kind of what it was until 2020. Would you say 2024 we started the redesign process?
Um, Actually, we started it a couple years earlier than that. It took a while before I finally was ready
Ah,
to launch
yes.
it.
Yes, because we kept getting busy with client work. So you put your own project last. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a theme. That's a theme.
Yeah.
So if you look at just the various aspects of SEO, not just design and conversion, we get the dregs, the last bits of
Yeah.
the attention from things like our link building team and so forth. It's just uh, I focus on my clients, and
Mm.
I guess you could call it an excuse, but it's not in the sense that I have to make strategic decisions about where I invest our time, energy, attention, and I put it on my clients. So it's good. That's good news for the clients. And if you're a prospect listening to this, like, know that you'll get the best stuff, my best and my team's best attention and time and so forth. And yeah, we just don't put the same level, not even close, maybe 100th of that to our own web presences. But yeah, that's why it took an extra several years to
Several
finally
years.
launch the redesign of stephanspencer.com.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing anyway, because you evolved a lot in that time as well, and that was sort of partly why I would say recently, before we went live, um, you decided to change the copy again to match where you are at, which is more, like you don't just help people with SEO anymore, and you haven't for a while, in my opinion. Every time you send us a client, like you've helped them write a book, you've helped them get discovered on all sorts of platforms and boost their authority on their website as well. But and that's why now it says future proof your web traffic. Like it's all of the web, wherever they are to be found, you'll help them get found, and then build lasting authority with data driven SEO strategy and AI minus the hype. And I love that bit, minus the hype, because yeah, this is something that you evolved into, I would say probably even the last 2 years, but your website copy just wasn't reflecting that.
Yeah, that's right. So I was pigeonholed into the SEO space, even though, that's the majority of what we do for clients. People weren't realizing how deep I was in AI or YouTube and so forth. Again, if you look at my own YouTube presence, it's like, okay. Uh, I have, I don't know, 8,000 something subscribers or whatever,
It's a
but
bit.
I help clients get uh, real significant results much bigger than my presence on their YouTube channels, because that's where I put 99% of my time and attention on, is on
Exactly.
my clients.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the amount of time that I put into like, yeah, anyways. So
I get it.
this
I get it.
is an important evolution and positioning evolution for me to put that out there and say that, hey, I help you with these other areas, and it's not SEO, search engine optimization anymore. It's search everywhere optimization.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, just some little things that are subtle as you land on the homepage above the fold. So you've got the very clear benefit driven USP. You've got all of these impact metrics that show the 30 years of experience, 250 satisfied clients, and 9-figure client centered. It's really letting people know when they land on the website what you do, how they'll benefit, and who it's for. That's really important.
Yeah. Now, that last metric is a guess. I'm sure it's somewhere in the nine figures of client revenue generated.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, you can't be specific because it's across, 250 clients. So it makes sense. But then, yeah, little things like as seen on, all the different places you've been seen. And, if you're watching this, you'll notice these are clickable, and these are going to click off to not the external website of these brands, but to your individual press page for these, right, Stefan?
Yeah, that's really important. If you send people off, they can, of course, validate and verify that you were on those media outlets. But what's the likelihood they're going to hit the back button and then come back to your site? So
Exactly.
that's a risk. If
It
you keep
is.
them on your site by sending them to the media page or press page, then you can overwhelm them with all the media presence, not just those as seen on logos.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they click off, then they click off, but you're less likely to lose them because you kept them on the media page or press page instead of sending them off in the at the first click.
Exactly. And obviously you have press in the top nav as well, which is really important, to showcase that authority. And when you go there on the press page, you've got a beautiful, at the top of the page, you've got press and media appearances as seen on the big ones, household names. But underneath that, you've got select a category below. So you've got TV appearances, conference interviews, podcast appearances, article mentions, byline articles, and all of these, when pressed, will anchor link down to that section of the page. So whether they press it or not, or they just scroll, they see the sheer volume of places that you've been mentioned. So it's, yeah, super impressive. We just make it easier by having those tabs so people can get to the relevant things if they want that quickly.
Yeah. And this is the sort of thing where you might think, well, is a bylined article, is that press? I consider that to be relevant enough to be on the press page because those are media outlets. It's Harvard
Mm-hmm.
Business Review and Founder Magazine and Content Marketing Institute, Search Engine Journal, Adweek,
Yeah.
etc. The fact that I wrote for those media outlets instead of getting a feature story in them or getting quoted as a source, it's still there's a lot of vetting that goes on in order for you to be able to write for an outlet like that or for CNET or
Mm.
Practically Commerce or whoever. So that's why those are there, even though they're not technically press mentions, because
Yeah, but it's boosting
that
your.
contributed articles or column.
Yeah, and I
But
imagine
yeah,
part of
that's
the
why those are there.
strategy for doing that, Steph, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably get some backlinks from those publications as well, right?
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
yes. But you're also, if you're doing what I'm doing here, linking back to them. So it's a bi-directional link,
Mm-hmm.
which looks more like a business relationship to Google than like a link earned by merit.
Yeah, incredible.
So that's
Really,
okay. I mean,
yeah,
there are different reasons to get links, and sometimes you overrule the SEO benefit with just another kind of business reason. So that's why we linked back. More important to me to have that social proof
yes,
on the
exactly.
press page.
I
Yeah.
agree. And the beauty of having a link out to them legitimizes that it really happened, you know. So I think that's pretty smart.
Yeah. It's not just to the homepage. I find the exact article on the site,
Mm,
or my team does. And then if the article gets deleted from the site, then we switch it out to the Wayback Machine to archive.org so they can still see that the article was posted on that site, even though it's been removed.
incredible. Yep. And so a few other things on the homepage to showcase your authority. I mean, you've got co-author of the Art of SEO, so that straight away says you're an author, which is an authority in people's mind. They think you're an authority because you're an author. We've talked about the impact metrics, and then if you think about the top nav as well, like the fact that you've got press, you've got results, you've got podcasts where you've got 2 podcasts, and then you got your books up here as well, and you hover over it, and these are what we call like a mega menu, and so it shows an image of all the books and a little description, and then you can link off to the individual book landing page, which will still keep people on your website, right?
Yeah,
Top.
so that's an important point. Like, and those are other examples of your work. If you go to the Art of SEO book website, which is artofseo.com, we don't link directly to that site. We keep people on my site first. My personal brand site has a landing page for the book with a lead magnet for a free chapter and some book bonuses.
Yeah.
And then if they want, they could go to the Art of SEO website, which is artofseo.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you send them off site too quickly, even if it's another site that you own, you take a risk because now it's a jarring experience to end up on a completely different website, different branding, different nav structure, site structure, etc. So we try to keep people on as long as possible. But yeah, I love that mega nav with the imagery on it. When you hover over books, you see the pictures of the books. When you hover over the podcast
Mm-hmm.
nav, you see the 2 podcast covers.
Yeah. And
Good
just a
stuff.
little thing as well, like you can see I'm hovering over the text. It's all clickable. So it's going to take me there. We don't want to make it hard for people to go, right, I have to click on the image. They can click anywhere and it'll take them there, you know? So
Yeah.
it's just little
Well,
things like
yeah.
that.
Actually, if you look under the learn item, there's the marketing and personal development
Mm,
sections, which have images, but also if you want to go directly to the courses instead of just the main
nice.
area of the marketing learning center, then there's the courses is underlined there. You can jump straight to the courses,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I have made them all free. They were expensive. Back in the day, I was charging, some of them were $2,500 and one of them was almost $5,000.
Wow.
And I've decided to make them all free. So if you go to stephanspencer.com and you go to those courses, you can sign up for free.
Amazing. Wow. Yeah. And there's what, 7 courses. Yep. Incredible. But
Yeah.
I also wanted to point out on the book landing page, you've got some serious authority on there. Like, you've got Rand Fishkin, you've got Robert Cialdini saying awesome things about the book. Even Neil Patel. Wow. Yeah. I
And
don't
some of
know.
the people that were like mentors or
Mm-hmm.
people I really looked up to decades ago writing blurbs about the book.
Wow.
Brian Tracy, for example,
Oh,
I've been
yeah.
listening to his content for decades since the 90s. I love Brian Tracy, and he wrote a wonderful blurb for me. And this is a big difference maker if you have a book to get the endorsement quotes and really put the effort into it. I put a ton of effort into
Mm,
getting 60 blurbs,
amazing. I noticed you do that for
which is a
clients.
lot. That's kind of unheard of.
And I noticed
And
you do that for
it's not
clients.
just so you can put it in the book in the front matter or
Yeah.
several of them on the back cover or whatever. It's so that you can leverage that on the web, not just on the book website, but on your personal brand website and other places where you need testimonials or endorsements or anything. You can leverage those quotes, and it's such an overwhelming number with really high quality people that you're like, wow, this guy must be the guy to hire.
Yeah. And I think the beauty of you having these two different podcasts is you've got a whole network of super authorities in, both type of areas from marketing to, personal development, etc. Where when you work with a client, you will, and you recommended, for instance, one of the clients that we work with together, Chris Parker, to write a book, and you helped him with that. But then you helped him get testimonials and book reviews for his book based on the network of people that you've built up over the years. I think that's just a hidden, extremely valuable bonus for clients.
Yeah. In fact, with Chris, we talked about this on the case study episode about Chris and his various sites, including whatismyipaddress.com, which is now, since the recording just a few months ago, he has now exceeded 14 million visits a month.
Wow, keeps going up. Amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah. So
speaking of
it's yeah,
results,
yeah. I'm really proud of our work together with him. But that whole book, Privacy Crisis, that came out this fall was my brainchild. And I
yeah,
got him the ghostwriter, and I got him most of the endorsement quotes, and so all the things. I
amazing.
really shepherded that book to completion and launch. I'm really proud of it, and it was actually going to be my book. I said this on that episode, but
Yeah,
I decided to give that to Chris. He's more of an expert in the privacy and security space than I am. And even though it was my brainchild and I was the solo author at the beginning of it, I thought he'd be a great fit as a co-author. Then, you know what? Let's just let him have it. He can be a solo author for his first book and instead of a co-author.
yeah,
So yeah,
very
really,
cool.
really proud of him and proud of the work that we've done together and continue to do together.
Yeah, and you helped Brandon Yosha from Yosha Law. You helped me, with my book, but yeah, Brandon's book as well. Yeah, you were very involved in that. It was your idea, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It was not on his radar to do a memoir. And
incredible.
again, I hooked him up with a ghostwriter who I'd worked with myself, a different one in that case. But yeah,
Yeah, amazing. So yeah, and there's some really good case studies. If anybody's watching this on YouTube, you'll see the effort that we go to for, creating case study pages. It's not just a, testimonial. There's multiple videos, there's results, there's just the whole situation and what the client says about your services. But everything on this page is it's essentially a template that we use for all of your client case studies, and then we tweak it to suit each case study. But yeah, it's a really good best practice for case studies that the listener or viewer, should probably go check out.
yeah, but it's not formulaic.
No, it's
It
not.
can be templated to some degree, but if you're stuck in this paradigm of background, solution, results, it's very boring. Nobody wants to read those formulaic case studies. You got to do great storytelling, hero's journey, this whole story arc, surprise and delight, etc. And that means sometimes the design is going to be a little different from case study to case study. If you look at the Brandon Yosha Law Firm case study, compare that with the Chris Parker, whatismyipaddress.com case study, there's different sections,
Hmm.
and it's not just a swap in and out different images and different text. It's a
Yeah.
whole different kind of story arc and different kinds of screenshots and different ways of telling the story. And that's because they're vastly different types of sites and businesses with different results and different metrics for success.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Yeah. So yeah, but it's a really good example of how to design case study pages. If you really want to attract similar types of clients, go to this level of detail, and it's just going to give you the best chance of attracting better clients essentially. So I think case studies
Yeah.
are underlooked resource. And especially these days, like even with LLMs, like they want to know that you have a lot of social proof. And so therefore we do recommend having one individual page for all of your social proof. We call it results. And we say results most of the time because you want to highlight the results that you get for clients as opposed to just having a client testimonial saying nice things about you. Nobody cares about that. But because other prospects want results, so you want to highlight the results, and that's why we lead with case studies. And then you've got a whole range of case studies for a section. You've got client testimonials, client interviews, praise from thought leaders, and then a client list as well, which is super impressive. People might think, why not put that at the top? And Stephan, you'll probably think, well, it's just logos, and I don't want to brag. I want to show people the results I get, and that's probably why I have it in this order. Is that right?
Yeah. And also, I renamed this section from praise years ago to results because I wanted to focus on the results. As you say, like people hire you for results, they don't hire you for all the fluffy praise that you get. So cut to the chase,
Yeah.
show them results,
Yeah. Love
and
that.
call it that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. But having it all on one page is super impressive for, a prospect and LLMs from what I hear. So it's a good
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then,
and if you have a podcast, use that podcast to talk to your clients and turn those into case study episodes so that you can get a range of testimonial quotes and the reason why they almost didn't hire you. You can extract all that out during the course of an hour-long interview or 30 minutes or whatever it is. Whereas if you just ask for a testimonial quote from a client, you might get a couple paragraphs. You might only get a few sentences. Here, there's much more opportunity for storytelling and for surprise and delight. You got a whole 30 or 60 minutes of content in conversation with that client.
it's a good point, actually. Absolutely. Yeah. And so you put them on there as well, which is super cool. And then, I mean, I just wanted to mention your two podcasts, and then I want to show people your about page. But yeah, so what Stephan does, because he has two podcasts, instead of just taking people off to the podcast website, because people, let's say they know Stephan for SEO and marketing, they may not even know he has a Get Yourself Optimized podcast. So there may be a major disconnect if we just take people from the top nav mega menu feature section to the actual podcast. So Stephan has what we call like a bridging page. So it's still on his Stephan Spencer website, but it's an introduction, and it's pretty much very similar to what you would see on the podcast page of the website, and except it shows all the categories, and it just builds more trust when you do it this way as opposed to taking people directly off the site. Now then he'll show all of the featured episodes. He's got all the categories at the top, and then if you click on any one of these, it will take you off to that external website. And I think it's just a really smart approach before you take them there to really show, the bridging page for the two different brands, Stephan Spencer and Get Yourself Optimized.
Yeah. So now our listener or viewer might wonder why not have the podcast live under the personal brand website. Just like you see many authors have their book information on their personal brand website and not have a separate site for the book, or they don't have a separate site for the podcast if they're a podcaster. And the reason for that is because if you believe that the brand of the book or the podcast has staying power, it has a life of its own, it maybe even could get acquired at some point, right? It's not a business if it's not acquirable. Could it be its own standalone business that gets acquired? Or the IP of it, is it big enough that it warrants having its own brand?
I love that.
Then it needs its own website. So if the art of SEO is as big as I tout it to be, it should have its own website
Yep.
because it's that important
Same
and
with the marketing speak.
that big in the industry. So that's why we have separate websites. But you do have to do link building then to all of those websites and not just to the personal brand website. So there is a cost. There is a downside if you don't aggregate all your content on one big website.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And look, there's two podcast websites. The Get Yourself Optimized. When did this one go live? Was it 2025 or four?
This went live in the summer this year. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So 2025. And then Marketing Speak, it still looks really cool, but this went live what year?
I think 2 years earlier.
Okay. Yeah, sure. And you'll notice, this still has the same sort of structure because this structure works. And on Get Yourself Optimized, it's pretty much identical. It just has probably more authority, more, a better design for a start, and more social proof on there as well. So they're the things. And we've got a nice image of you and a section for hiring you to speak. Now, people might also be wondering, Stephan, like you've got a speaking page on your personal brand website. Why would you do the same on your podcast website?
Because I want people who are listening to the show or are interested in the show to see that I speak
Mm-hmm.
and could do a keynote presentation at their conference. Now, there'll be a very small percentage of my audience that are conference organizers or who are decision makers or decision influencers for conferences and seminars and so forth. But it's important enough that I wanted to have that kind of stand out.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And yeah, because they may not be interested in, like, obviously on the Get Yourself Optimized, you've got topics that relate to Get Yourself Optimized as a
Yeah, personal
podcast. Yeah.
development, spirituality,
Yeah.
mindset, biohacking, those sorts of topics that I can speak on that I'm not as known as a thought leader in that space versus SEO and marketing and AI.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you also have on marketing speak, you have consulting and coaching because these are the things that, people may want to hire you for. And they may not know that you have a personal brand website at this point. They may have heard you through marketing speak. So I think it makes a lot of sense to, it might be more effort to have a consulting page on your personal brand website and your marketing speak, but I feel like it's a better pathway for the listener. And so it's really about what's in it for them, worrying, as opposed to worrying about making it simple for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, again, if you think about SEO as search everywhere optimization, you want to be everywhere, not just consolidated on solely on one website.
Mm.
Even though it's more work to do the link building and citation building, et cetera, for multiple sites. If you have these big projects or initiatives, whatever they are, if it's a podcast, a book, or a documentary, or whatever it is, like invest in a proper website that's not just a one pager.
Yeah. Cool.
Google and the LLMs aren't going to take you seriously if you have a one page website
Yeah.
about whatever it is.
Yeah. And we'll wrap up shortly. It's up to you how much longer you want to go for. But I want to talk about the frequently asked questions because you do put a lot of effort into these as well. Like if you're watching this, have a look at the segmenting, which goes horizontally across the top of the frequently asked questions. And then you have, a whole bunch for each, but it's just really nicely organized as opposed to just having it all in one big, long, expanded page, which would be really confusing for visitors. I think putting it into sections like pricing, offering, consulting, scope, etc. I think it's just so much easier to digest for the viewer.
Yes, and these aren't FAQs about SEO. These are
We're on the
FAQs
consulting
about
page.
hiring me
Yeah, exactly. On the consulting
because I'm
page.
trying to obliterate or at least limit the objections that people might have in
Mm,
hiring me. If they're concerned about budget, well, I'm not the cheapest SEO out there by a long stretch. So having a whole category in the FAQ on about pricing, that's really important. That that preempts and handles ahead of time the objections before we even have a call.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's pretty smart, I think, going into that level as well. But the way it's organized, I think, is a good user experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So let's have a look at the about page because we showed what that looked like in the Wayback Machine, which was this one that we're looking at now. And then
Yeah. Kind of a stub of a page there, the previous version.
and so this is your new one, and it does have a good intro. Obviously, about Stephan Spencer, good for SEO, right? In the big large font. But then, yeah, this is a positioning piece, and then you go into obviously you got to request a consult call to action. We haven't talked about call to actions, but they're all strategically placed all over this website. But then, yeah, it's all authority, copy, above, positioning, and then you go into kind of what's in it for them, and then you go into the journey that led you to this point so far in a beautiful timeline, which just has images and a little paragraph for each of the milestones that for you started back in 1984. And I encourage anyone to look at this timeline to see the history that led Stephan to this point. It's pretty cool, I reckon. I laugh at some of these images because they're so dated, but yeah, that's the way the internet was back then. So yeah, this is really cool.
Yeah, those are the two websites we mentioned earlier
They
in the
are, yeah,
episode, Insight
yeah,
and Writer's Net. Yeah.
yeah. It's so
Which
cool.
looked beautiful back in 1995. I mean, those were
Yeah.
actually those screenshots were probably from 97. The site looked less designed in the early iteration that I'm not a designer, so I
Yeah.
just coded it the best I could without having a proper designer. So
Cool. Yeah. But then, yeah, all of these, magazines that you were featured in and journals, and yeah, like it's pretty impressive. This one here, In Business, explain that one. How'd you get on the cover of that?
it was a cover story. So I did some work with a local client in the same city and did some really great work. We got a journalist assigned to us, and they kind of diaried the evolution of a site rebrand and relaunch.
Oh, cool. Like a
Just
case study.
yeah, a case study based on like a timeline.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There you
Yeah,
go. And
it
we're
was
on a
pretty innovative back in the day to do
absolutely.
it that way.
And now we're doing a timeline in a timeline. And what I like about this as well, like this is your personal brand website, and it's not just authority boosting things. When I got this awesome client and featured here, like you talk about your personal journey as well when you moved the entire family to New Zealand in 1999, and I just love that aspect because that's what people are looking for. People want to know who is this person behind the brand. And yeah, I think you got a good mix in here of all of the authority boosting things, but personal brand and personal story as well. You talk about your daughter. Yeah, there's a lot of things here. You talk about when you got married, which is coming up soon. Um, Here we go. Yeah, so met your soulmate Orion. Incredible. But yeah, I just love that the way it's unpacked, and you haven't just put business stuff in there, which is what I really like about it.
Yeah, because people want to know, like, and trust you,
Yeah.
and you got to highlight your story of struggle, the hero's journey, trials and tribulations, and not just your Instagram ready success moments, but some of the crazy wild ride as well. If you look back to 2009, 2010, there's a before and after there, 2010, of the
Oh,
2009
yeah.
photo and the 2010 photo there
Yep.
juxtaposed of me before and after a huge life reboot where I got like LASIK and a hair transplant, and I changed my diet. I started working out, and I became unrecognizable from the previous version of me, to the point where I would go to conferences to speak, and if I didn't have the badge on me or whatever, people wouldn't recognize me. And so I'd
Mm.
hang around in a group of other speakers for a few minutes and they didn't know who I was.
That's hilarious.
That was fun for, a while, but then everybody knows what I look like now, so they don't really
Yeah,
recall what I
it's been
used
a
to look
while.
like. But that's, part of
The journey.
yeah, I might try and hide that,
Exactly.
but
I
I
reckon it's
I don't
cool.
think that makes you real to hide all the previous
Yeah.
versions of you or whatever. I want to be authentic and share my story.
Yeah, I love that. It's all those things that led you to this point, and it's a personal brand website, so I think it's really important that you keep those in as well. So yeah, very cool. And
Yeah.
that is the the birth of David, 2019. So the point is, I think this is a vast improvement on your previous about page, and then you end the page with another section, which is the call to action to request a free consult. If they've read your journey, what do you want them to do next? And yeah, for you, it's request a consult. And I think that's the smartest thing on this type of page for a call to action.
Yeah, and that's for any page because any page is a potential landing page or entry point
Mm-hmm.
from Google or from an LLM.
Yeah.
So, what's the next action? It should be clear. It should be singular. I shouldn't have a bunch of choices to make. Like, do I request a free consult? Do I get a free chapter of Stephan's book? Do I
Mm.
download a speaker kit? Do I like for each page, it's a thing. So if you're on my speaking page, it's download a speaker kit. If you're on, let's say, the results page, it's to request a free consult.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
also the elements of social proof change. So if you notice here on the results page, the clients served logo bar is prominent. Sony, Chanel, Zappos, etc. Well, you go to the press page, and that's changed to media outlets as
Mm-hmm.
seen on. So you go to the speaking page, and you see the logo bar is events that I've spoken at, right? So affiliate summit and IRCE and spoken at Stanford University, etc.
Yeah. No,
Because that's relevant. So the social proof is relevant, the call to action is relevant, but it's simple, it's clear. Clarity is king.
yeah. Couldn't agree more. Yeah. Good point. But it's also, what's in it for them on all of these pages. You do have some copy that talks about, what the benefits are of each of the offers and, the fact that you understand their situation and you have social proof to back it up on every single page. Again, it's all relevant social proof, So all those things are, yeah, super, super important to make sure it's relevant and with clarity, like you mentioned before. So
Yeah.
cool. Well, look, I mean, that's a good overview of the evolution of the personal brand and your, podcast websites, and you've redesigned your agency website as well. And so, yeah, is there anything else you'd like to sort of add here? I mean, from my perspective, it's all about for the listener thinking about do you have a personal brand? It's more important than ever in the age of AI to invest in your personal brand offline, but online as well. And yeah, what else do you want to add, Stephan?
Yeah, that the personal brand is the brand that you take from cradle to grave. And when I invested in the early years in the Net Concepts brand, I didn't realize that at some point I would sell that brand and then reacquire it later on. But I did not realize that that was a thing to invest in because I always thought that these are um, intertwined. Me and my company. At some point, you'll hopefully sell your company, and then what are you left with? Only your personal brand. If you haven't invested in one, then you're left with nothing. And as you say, especially in the age of AI, where that's the difference maker. Somebody could just say, "Hey, find me some SEO expert to hire." Blah 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 blah. Here are my criteria. But if you already heard me speak at a conference, or you've read my book, or you have benefited from my content online, whether it's articles or courses or whatever, then you're going to direct the AI to specifically look into Stephan Spencer. So that's critical for the future is for them to have you, the listener, top of mind when they're prompting an AI.
Absolutely. And your website's never finished. So keep iterating, like add in social proof, make sure it's completely relevant to what people are thinking. Like Stephan made this shift with his copy because his offer shifted, because that's what that's what he helped his audience with. So the point is just always review your website. I would say every 3 months these days to make sure it's completely relevant to what you offer today, and make sure that the social proof is always up to date.
Yeah. I'll always be looking for opportunities to get testimonials and case studies and interviews with your clients so that you can refresh and add more social proof because as you say, your website's never finished.
You bet.
Well, thank you so much, Greg. That was fabulous. And if our listener or viewer wants to work with you, where do they hire Studio One?
Studio1Design.com, and that's the numeral 1. Or if you have any questions, just send me an email, greg@studio1design.com. Thank you.
Awesome. And you have a personal brand site too, gregmerrilees.com. And you have a book website too. Like you have all the things. And that one is nextlevelwebsitedesign.com, correct?
Spot on. Thank you, Stephan. I appreciate the plug.
And of course, if you want to work with me on SEO, AEO, brand building, and overall marketing, stephanspencer.com or netconcepts.com.
Awesome.
All right, we'll catch you in the next episode. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off. What you just heard, and you want to binge the rest of the episodes in this case study series, then go check out episodes 503, 507, 509, 510, 512, 515, and 521, which are available at marketingspeak.com/ followed by the episode number, such as 503. I guarantee you'll get a lot of actionable insights that will be applicable to your business. And as always, please do check out the show notes, transcript, action-based checklist, and all the URLs mentioned in this episode that you just heard at marketingspeak.com/531. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share the episode and, more importantly, the entire show Marketing Speak with a friend. It'll really help this podcast grow in reach and impact. Thank you.